Hi everyone, I'm Gypsy Fernandez and I am currently right now in Ithaca College taking this class and recording this video for all you wonderful people. So my presentation is on traits of addiction. I decided to do addiction because, I've seen a trait in my family and I was wondering, well, is this genetic or not? Or is it environmental? Is it because it's a cultural thing? Or is it because everyone does it? But we'll see. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so let's start off with what is an addiction. So an addiction, according to Webster, is a compulsive need for and use of habit-forming substance, characterized by tolerance and well-defined by physiological symptoms upon withdrawal. So what does this tell us? This tells us that our body needs it. We need it in our everyday action. It is something that must be infiltrated in every single routine of our day. An addiction, what separates an addiction and a non-addictive person who intakes a substance is that that person basically would prefer the substance over their normal life. A person who is a non-addict will willingly say, I will choose to go to work, then consume this substance. But an addict, on the other hand, does not have that willingness in them to choose their job or their family over the addiction. Why? Because they're already addictive. Okay, and the reason why they are genetic is because both of these are actually, specifically, DRD2 is a dopamine receptor, and I will speak more in regards with the next slide in regards to receptors. And receptors are something very, very tricky, and they are what distinct an addict and a non-addict. Okay, so what I have here is a picture of the receptor almost like clicking. So this is basically like a puzzle piece in our brain. So the thing that differentiates or distincts the addict with the non-addict is that addicts have more dopamine receptors waiting to just be clicked in. So the moment an alcohol or any kind of substance, any addictive substance enters the brain, they almost click together. So the more things click, the more likely the person is to become an addict. I hope that makes sense. So here's the thing. So neurotransmitters are basically released into our brains as dopamine, and that creates a sense of comfort. Now you're probably wondering why I have the picture of a burger and a soda, a soft drink, and some french fries. And this is because I made the analogy in my paper to fast food. The reason why I made this analogy is because people that eat fast food, they eat it because it releases endorphins in their heads, and endorphins make us happy. And if we're happy, we're comfortable, and this is why it's called comfort food. So in a sense, although some people now might agree with this analogy, but comfort food in fact is like an addiction, because we are constantly looking on the outside for that sense of comfort that we need to fill in that sort of void. And food can also be a form of addiction, believe it or not. Okay, so here I have one of my favorite authors. His name is Gabor Mate. He is actually a doctor. He is from Canada, originally from Budapest, and you can look him up on Democracy Now! But Gabor Mate talks a lot about addicts, and the reason I brought Gabor Mate into this presentation is because I wanted to focus on this presentation on a more social lens of alcoholism, and he wrote this book that I have right here. It's called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, by him, of course. And he basically talks about how addicts are shunned. They're seen as a form of liability in today's society, and how America in specifically is filled with prisons, which I will talk to in the next slide, and how we condemn these addicts for being the way they are instead of actually helping them. Now that we know that alcoholism is in fact a genetic, something genetic, then we can actually sit down and help these people instead of imprisoning them, because most people that are in jail in this country are due to drug abuse or some sort of substance abuse. And Gabor Mate's argument is basically that instead of imprisoning these people and spending taxpayer money in the prisons, that we should in fact be helping these people. Now, let's go to our next slide. Alright, so prisons, we all know what they are. We have shows all over, Prison Break, everyone's trying to break out, right? So basically, the United States is the country that has the most prisons in the world, in the entire world. And if most of these prisons are filled with people who have substance abuse or some kind of abuse, and believe it or not, maybe alcohol is in there. Why not? Why can't, if alcoholism is in fact genetic, and I cannot be blamed for having all these receptors in my brain and for possibly being an alcoholic, why is it that I am to be blamed if it's a genetic feature, and then being imprisoned, and then society almost blaming me? This is my argument throughout this whole thing, at least during this presentation, and I think it's something that this country should really start looking at, and really start looking at Gabor Mate's research, and probably reading his book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I sure did, and now I know a lot more about my family and their traits, and now I can't blame them, but all I can do is help them.